You're listening to the launch episode of the Daily Hustle podcast. Welcome to the Daily Hustle podcast, where I will be chatting to entrepreneurs at various stages of the entrepreneurial journey, as well as those who are champions of the cause. We will also be sharing tips, resources, and tutorials to help you on your daily hustle journey. As this is our very first show, I will not be interviewing a guest. Instead, I thought it would be more valuable to use this space to talk about what the daily hustle is and how it came about. And since I will be asking my guests a whole bunch of personal questions and asking them to share their life journeys, I thought it only fitting that I share with you who I am and why I care enough about entrepreneurship to bring you this podcast. Hey Daily Hustle listeners, thank you for listening to our launch episode. I'm super excited but also a little bit nervous to be here to share this space with you. I had planned to launch on Wednesday, the 18th of October 2017, but things did not quite go according to plan, partly because it is incredibly difficult to record good audio when you have kids banging on your door, shouting outside the room every 5 minutes in the background, but partly because this is the very first time I'm podcasting, and it's very important to me that the launch episode is great so that you will hopefully keep listening week after week. I recorded and re-recorded this episode so many times, and that is how launch day came and launch day went, and still no podcast. But here I am, and I'm just going to do it. Much like any project or venture, I realize that when you keep delaying acting because you want something to be perfect, what ends up happening is that you never take action. But anyway, I digress. As you heard in the intro, in this very first episode, I will not be interviewing anyone. Instead, I want to talk about what the Daily Hustle is, who I am, and why I'm doing this. So, as you know, my name is Tasneem Abrams, and on my Instagram profile, I refer to myself as a budding entrepreneur and closet geek. 2 years ago, I founded a company called Digital Engage, which is a boutique digital marketing and web design agency. The funny thing is, if you had asked me even just 5 years ago, where do I see myself in 5 years, I would not have said that I had visions of owning my own company, let alone in the digital marketing or web design space. Why? Because 5 years ago, I was an occupational therapist, practicing and teaching in the profession that I had studied 4 years to obtain a degree in. So how on earth did I go from being a health professional to becoming a digital entrepreneur? Well, my parents, they play a very significant role in the person I am today. My mother was the epitome of altruism. She always encouraged me and everyone around her to be the best version of themselves, simply because she always saw the best in everyone. It was through her that I learned determination, optimism, and the value of being helpful to others. She was also very goal-oriented. When she wanted something, she made it happen. Now, my father, he always loved all things technology related. He's always been an early adopter. When he finished high school, unfortunately, he was not permitted to study in this field, in the field that he was interested in, because of the color of his skin. So he was quite limited. In the time of apartheid, it was people of color were limited to what they were allowed to study. But he continued to explore his passion, and by being self-taught through hard work and dedication, he worked himself through the ranks and eventually did earn a qualification as an information systems auditor in his adult life. And as a child, watching him pursue his dreams to give us, his family, a better life, it taught me that anything is possible. I still remember the day he graduated and how proud we were of his achievement. And it just showed me that, you're never too late to learn, you're never too late to follow your dreams, to achieve your goals. He was a grown man with a grown family. I mean, I was already a teenager when he achieved his degree, but he did it. And I always like to say that as the eldest of three siblings, I kind of had the best of both worlds, having this big-hearted mom and this really brainiac dad, but both of them with the same qualities of love and hard work and determination. I didn't know then, of course, that one day in my adult life I too would pursue a career in a field I had no official qualification in. I always loved the profession of occupational therapy, but I've always had a love for all things digital. Growing up, though, in a pre-internet era, I chose to pursue my humanitarian passion rather than a tech passion. I mean, in those days there was no social media. I mean, internet wasn't even something that was a norm. There was no Facebook. So, I decided to go the humanitarian route and follow the passion I had for people and helping people. And that's how I ended up studying and qualifying and working for many years as an occupational therapy, specifically in mental health, because I am fascinated by the way the human mind works and human behavior. I didn't set out to leave the health profession to become a digital entrepreneur, because I still do believe fully in the profession of occupational therapy and very passionate about advocating for it. But as they say, life is what happens when you are making other plans. And in my case, the saying has a very literal meaning, as I was blessed with 4 beautiful children over the years. And as most women can attest to, with the birth of each child, I was left feeling conflicted, because I had this desire to advance myself professionally in occupational therapy and to do something meaningful with my skills and contribute to society in an impactful way. But then I also had this desire to be the best mom I could be. So I started dabbling in freelance virtual work as a medical content writer, initially because it allowed me to be at home with my kids while still stimulating my mind. I cannot not be doing something of an intellectual capacity. It really is something that is important to me. And of course, the extra income always helps when you have 4 mouths to feed. So this was also the time that I embarked on a personal web project that led me into the world of WordPress and web design. I was hooked. I thoroughly enjoyed learning code and learning how to modify WordPress themes. I just loved it. And in general, I do love learning and exploring new skills and new ideas, and continue to enhance my knowledge in various areas of web design. And this was also the time when content marketing and started to really take off. And I discovered that through writing the medical articles, that this was being used as a form of digital marketing. And so I explored that further and learned web design, content creation. I did many courses in inbound marketing and a variety of online marketing skills. And of course, social media started to really take off as a marketing platform at that point, and I love social media. So as my freelance content marketing business expanded, it became apparent that there was a real need among smaller and medium businesses for the services I could provide at a more affordable cost than your big agencies, who tend to service more your big corporates with multi-million rand budgets. So in 2015, I decided to take the plunge and commit myself to turning my freelance gig into a scalable business. But I had no formal business training, no experience in the corporate world. I mean, I came from working in charities and government institutions. I had no formal qualifications in this industry either. I didn't go and study web design or study digital marketing. I may have done courses and, you know, did a lot of online training, but there was no formal degree or diploma that didn't exist in the time that I had gone to study. So I also didn't know the first thing about how you start a business. How do you employ staff? How do you manage budgets? I was terrible when it came to understanding financials, even though I did accounting in high school. It's really completely different in the real world. And I also had no idea on how to access funding. So I was really going into this starting with, shoestring budget and trying to go the lean startup route and really bootstrap my way to a scalable business. I then discovered the concept of the business incubator and was introduced by a friend to the Awetu project. There are many other micro business incubators and also business accelerators in South Africa, but Awetu is where I ended up for 6 months. Now, it was through Awetu and their vision that I found my passion for entrepreneurship. Just coming into contact with so many other people who also were looking to start something, who had a vision, who wanted to start their own businesses. It was really inspiring, and hearing everybody's different stories, their backgrounds, where they came from, why they were doing this, was really fascinating for me. And this is how the journey has taken me to culminate in the founding of the Daily Hustle. Now, the reason why particularly as a South African entrepreneurship is so important. Lack of access to funding and access to markets are cited as the two most common issues South African entrepreneurs see as obstacles to starting a business in this country. But this is not a problem that is unique to South Africa. South Africans are by nature survivalists. We are innovative and opportunistic, but we also have an entrenched history of inequality in all the primary areas of citizenship, such as education, food, security. And so entrepreneurship is to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For those who don't know what that is, I highly recommend you Google it. It's really fascinating. But right at the top is self-actualization, and entrepreneurship is a self-actualizing goal. In South Africa, when your primary goal is to secure your basic human rights, the pain and sacrifice that comes with building an empire suddenly feels way too risky. For many South Africans, having a brilliant idea for a business or having an income generating skill is just not enough to succeed as an entrepreneur. We need support structures, mentorship that understands our unique struggles and mindsets, and we need help to navigate the more pragmatic aspects of starting and running a business in South Africa, such as registering the business banking requirements, tax regulations. I mean, these are all boring details and they're not complicated, but having been through the process, it's not difficult to become a business owner, but it is daunting. So business incubators are popping up all over South Africa and play a huge role in helping fledgling business owners grasp these essential pieces of knowledge. And then the South African government also has recognized that entrepreneurship has a really invaluable contribution to play in our economy. Because through new businesses developing and growing and scaling, that's how you create employment. So the government has supported numerous programs aimed at giving small and medium businesses a chance at success, whether that's through training, through funding, through partnering with big corporates to take smaller businesses under their wing, or whether it's through access to markets. But there is support available. And another thing is that the entrepreneurial journey is a very difficult one. It's a lonely journey, and there'll be many times when you doubt yourself, you doubt your decisions, you feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of your vision, and it's important that you have support. I'm very fortunate to have an extremely supportive and loving husband who is there to usher me through those tough times. But if it doesn't have to be a partner. It can be through co-working spaces. You meet other entrepreneurs. They say that you should surround yourself with the kind of person you want to be, and so to get support from like-minded entrepreneurs is really important. Also mentorship. A lot of my guests talk about the importance of mentorship, whether that be a formal mentor or informally somebody who you can talk to and who is able to give you great support and advice on your journey. Now, Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, there are many countries that have this show. In South Africa, we also had both shows. And one of the dragons, Vinnie Lingham, he was both a shark and a dragon. And he, in the book I'm in, which sort of is a spin-off of the Dragon's Den show in South Africa, in that book, he actually says that to him the difference between an entrepreneur and other people is that you at first you might work for a lot lower salary, or in most people's cases you don't draw a salary, but at first you might work for a lower salary on a monthly basis. But the difference is that when you start out with that low salary, the aim is to work towards building long-term equity, wealth and value. Now this is in that time when you're going through that difficult period of not earning. It's incredibly tough, and there'll be many times where you will question whether it would be better to just get a job with benefits where you have a guaranteed paycheck at the end of the month and paid leave to enjoy the school holidays with your kids. So being an entrepreneur really requires conviction in your vision and the willingness to step way outside your comfort zone, and the mental strength to accept discomfort and the sacrifice and the darkness, because the long-term vision has to be worth it. Now, I go back to my first profession, occupational therapy. It is rooted in this philosophy of doing, being and becoming, which is the belief that what we choose to do and how we do it shapes who we are and who we are destined to become. And this is what the Daily Hustle is all about. It's an online platform created to celebrate the entrepreneurial knowledge seeker, creating and curating tips, tools, tutorials, and inspirations for the big thinker. The podcast focuses specifically on the journey of entrepreneurship, because again, going back to the doing, being, and becoming, how is it that the things that you've done in your life and the decisions you've made has shaped who you are at the present? So we interview people at various stages of the entrepreneurial journey, where we ask our guests to share their personal stories of how they navigated through the entrepreneurship process. That, from the transition to becoming an entrepreneur, if you've left a corporate job or any other so-called safety net, the fears and challenges that come with that, and ultimately how they reached the point where they are in when we actually sit down and interview them. So we won't necessarily only be interviewing people who are at the pinnacle of success, multi-million rand entrepreneurs. It's really about exploring the journey at all stages. So whether you're a startup but you are really doing something amazing, or you have some inspirations to share where you can actually inspire others to also make that move and share your lessons that you learned along the way, so that others don't make the same mistakes. So if you are a dream chaser, if you are a perpetual learner, somebody who is driven by a greater vision and a greater purpose, and you are looking for that kind of inspiration on your journey to greatness, then this podcast is for you. I hope you find value in it, and please let me know in the comments on our YouTube channel or via our social media channels if you have any suggestions on how we can bring more value. We also will be launching our website where a lot of our podcasts will sit, and also where you will find the show notes for each of our podcasts. But it's been great. I think I finally managed to get through this whole podcast and recording, to say what I wanted to say, and I hope you enjoy it. Till next time, thank you for listening.